Welcome back, as our Scandinavian supermen were able to dismember Alliance. However, Alliance, they are in luck. This is a best of 3, not a best of 1. Unfortunately, the bad news is that we are now moving to KOVA's map, KOVA's home territory, after taking Icebox 13-4. Alliance are going to be in some serious trouble here. Remember, KOVA, a victory here would confirm them in playoffs and would remove human tripwires from that playoffs contention, so it is all to play for. Good thing too, because I can't talk you through this alone. I'm joined by the amazing Moxie. How are you feeling about map 1, and I mean, how are you feeling going into map 2?
Well, I cannot say that I predicted map 1 to be that fast, but looking at the composition that KOVA's coming out with, again, I can't say I predicted to see this coming out either. KOVA are very rounded when it comes to their agent picks. The one thing that really does remain on this map is that Yasmin loves to continuously lock in onto that Astra, but other than that Astra pick coming through,
it's a bit wild.
Everything else about this composition is entirely unrecognizable.
Yeah, I don't know where this has come from as well. Bear in mind that they have, I think they've run this composition once before, but they had a raise instead of a fade. So we're seeing different iterations coming from KOVA here. I personally am a really big fan of the Neon on Haven. I'm also a big fan of the Breach. So I'm glad we've got our two kind of staples there. The only agent I sort of about here is that Killjoy, but that'll be because I'm a ruthless Killjoy hater, and everything I look at is coloured by my hatred of Killjoy.
Agent bias, agent bias.
It's not agent bias, it's agent hatred.
Well,
I feel
no,
that
see, I'm a big fan of it because not only are you going to have a lot of control if you're able to get onto these sites and policing how Alliance are going to be able to go for that retake, you're also forcing Cider into a position to holding onto that Hunter's Fury for when the lockdown is available. And I will say that Hunter's Fury is a lot more versatile in its uses than a lockdown. So to be able to lock that one down for as many rounds in a row as you do have that lockdown, you're feeling pretty good for that trade.
That's true. Shed going to be able to avoid the camera. However, will be pinged in the process. The rest of Alliance, look at this huge rotation they've made to this C site. This is all off the back of garage control, but it's KOVA. They've beat them there. Jesmond, Shed both chime in with their openings. Code Z is hoping to follow it up. The frenzy, unfortunately, not quite good enough for the first. Jesmond does follow it up, though, down to the 4 on 2. Sorzen going to be ready to make this intro, hopefully to just distract players from Cider, but with Cider gone, Sorzen left in a 1v4. Good for the first, but the first is all he will find. Ale, oh, that's bad news. If he's getting kills, that means he hasn't cooled down between map 1 and map 2. And for Alliance, that is also going to give them good reason to learn to fear the name of KOVA.
Yeah, Alliance running without that chamber does mean that they're going to be at a disadvantage when it comes to those repositions. With how fast KOVA can be, not just with that Neon, but also the Breach being able to initiate, and the Astra and Fade controlling a lot of the space in areas where they're not actually still standing. It's going to be very hard for this defense if they do get baited towards the side that KOVA are not currently pushing. Shed going to be able to actually run past the fault line. A lot of utility from KOVA making sure that ramp is clear for their Neon to start to move towards that A side. As Neely's camera is making sure that if anyone tries to cross from short into sewers, there is going to be a 3-person crossfire to be able to catch them out, but the C's is going to be catching Soren into place, and the Jet currently can't peek.
The second KOVA, see that this is a stack, they're just going to disengage and hightail it to another side. Look at where the spike is as well. They know that Alliance are planning something. Question now is, how do they punish it? The Neon getting ready to take this duel with Sorzen. Is it enough here? Is it a potential? Or is this all for nothing? Is this all going to be a fruitless stack for Alliance?
This could be a really punishing fault line to come on through. Horn actually not going to be able to pick out Neely, who is out of line of sight behind that corner. But KOVA's still going to be doing a lot of pressure. Vicious has wrapped up extremely deep into Link, and now they're going to be able to pincer over onto the A site.
They eventually overwhelm Ale, but to what degree? The spike actually going down on B as well is it's a bit unorthodox, but in the way it's been planted close to Link, it means that you are in a position where you can instantly just play the afterplant. But KOVA, they don't want afterplant, they want blood, as they spot out both members in mid. Shed and Vicious both chime in together. Code C is good for 1, unfortunately. 1 is all it will be. KOVA continue this momentum, and oh god, Moxie. Some people were hoping for an Alliance reverse sweep, but I don't have much faith.
Yeah, KOVA once again punishing the fact that Alliance's composition is just vastly slower than their own. That they don't actually go over onto that A site, but they instead plant onto the B, forcing Alliance, kiting them into B window, whereas all of the rest of KOVA's comp is already going to be set in place to meet them. This, however, should be a round that Alliance are able to take, as long as they're able to keep the distance in their favor. That's why we can actually see Kurezi with that Vandal, trying to make sure that C long stays put, but a beautiful horn over onto that A side is actually going to be telling a lot of Alliance's positions to KOVA, so they know which distances, which angles these rifles are going to be holding, and Shed with 1 Vandal is able to pick out 1 already.
Instant trade though, however the low kill on Sorcerer means he can be pursued. The Spectre is able to take him down even at range though. Cider backside continues a bit of a rampage here. Ale though, Sheriff finishes the job. Nilla now, 1 versus however many dare peek him. Luckily for him, no one is peeking him. Ale doesn't expect him there, and Nilla's able to double down. Alliance put themselves on the board. They show KOVA that they still have the power to bite, but that was a bonus. And now KOVA bring out the big guns. They roll up their sleeves, and they think, okay, game on.
Shed is 1 away from overdrive. And buying into a sheriff, they're going to get that Neon and ult as soon as this round starts grammar. And that's when it's going to get scary, because yes, Alliance won a full variant in the previous, but they lost 3 of their rifles. So to refresh that, they've had to buy 3 rifles. If Shed can come on through with a huge ultimate, then their economy is going to be in absolute disrepair. Which is why Alliance, they know that they can't really give the Neon this space. If it is going to be a C push, they are going to be playing to make sure that they cut KOVA off before they can get that site control.
Do that. Has to avoid the Prowler, while the rest of KOVA... Actually, bear in mind, KOVA, their methodology on Icebox was to just take Jules wherever they were, but as a team. They would just overwhelm the position. On Haven, that's much harder to do. You see it here. They show themselves at C, and it means Alliance are able to take so much control elsewhere. Code C, there's the opening. Shed falls, tries to double down. Sutler is able to trade, but in the process, think of all the information that KOVA have just given up in a single action of just trying to trade here.
Yeah, but KOVA, the entire reason they pushed towards that C side was to get Shed that last ult orb for the overdrive, and Kadesi has actually been able to take the Neon out of the picture. And now, lacking a duelist, KOVA are going to have to settle for the B site to be able to get this spike planted, which is historically known for being one of the easier to retake. In fact, they're already just having to set Yasmin up into position with these stars, but that's given the game away. Alliance are converging and using things like these fault lines to make sure that KOVA don't get to step forward and they're going to be caught out in courtyard.
A lot of damage done by that aftershock. They're sourcing it for one, but the trades are just perfect from KOVA. Nilla, though, already on the flank, but Vicious expects it. That's perfect. Slider's left in a 1 versus 3, already dinked down to 13 HP. Only knows the location of one of these players, swings in and meets his maker. What a round from Vicious there, particularly to have the vigilance to expect Alliance to have stacked the site they were approaching.
Yeah, KOVA knowing that enough time has passed that Alliance are going to be policing that B site. We're very much aware, as are the defenders, that without that much time in the bank and no presence onto the C site, that is really the only space that KOVA can attempt, but Vicious is ready and waiting. And so too now, it's the lockdown. And this is an ultimate that has sort of differed up its uses as times have gone on. You used to be able to use it just brute force your way onto a space, now sometimes you hold it for a retake, other times you use it for a fake, and with Haven having those free sites to push, it can be exceptionally devastating to a defense like Alliance's when you're really only running that Jet who can start to try and go for fast repositions if you pull that defense in the wrong place. But KOVA not really wanting to use such a good tool on a round where Alliance are running very low on weaponry.
Already a player down as well. It's got to sting for KOVA as they set up once again for a chance just to kill any one of our allies who dares peek him. Cozy is going to do just that. Top of his head has been spotted out. That hood unfortunately peeks out, and that, kids, is why you shouldn't be emo. As Ali punishes it, it falls down to Sauzen, who is going to have to go through the rotation and just hope the Astra doesn't shut him down. But this ace site, it's already in control of KOVA.
Yeah, fast lane going to be coming on through to make sure that the Marshal isn't able to find anything if it is over from Heaven. Sauron with the Blade Storm could potentially look for an updraft pick, will be able to spot out one, but Shed is able to see the Jet as well, and a little bit faster with that rifle. Malfoy entirely shut out by that Siege, cannot yet pass through into Tunnel, and will now have to just wait and see whether or not Shed's going to peek out from hell. But Yasmin is about to put Elias into the 7th circle, has been able to wrap all across from that B side into Link, and takes out the two players who were waiting to either look for an exit frag or just nudging one after the other. You go in first, no, you go in first, and that hesitance costs them.
It absolutely done. Well, they say chivalry isn't dead, right? As KOVA find themselves continuing a lead here. What I quite like from Alliance is they have done a much better job at delaying. They've done a much better job at stopping KOVA from just charging into sites again and again and again. But they haven't actually won the rounds they've been delaying. They've just been delaying their own deaths. And you look at the KOVA ult management now. They're about to get 5 ults all readily available to just cascade onto Alliance.
Observers love it, don't they? When we have 5 ultimates, the teams can just push in. Especially when one of them's just Neon. Getting to use that fast lane for a little bit of pressure. Pulls out that fault line once again from Malfoy. KOVA are more than happy to trade that one out. Because now, you're not really going to be able to have it to try and land these concussions.
Right there.
As Alliance are going a lot more aggressive. Oh, they just see a little bit of shoulder from Vicious. And pressing a little bit deeper, so they're able to get that killjoy entirely. KOVA now going to be denied 1. Shed is still looking for that trade. Malfoy is out. And that C push is looking pretty juicy.
It is, and Ale's actually going aggressive. Oh my god, what a shot to go to there! Even doubles down on the Cider! 1 versus 2 for Ale. The fact it's a 1 versus 2 and he makes it look like it's winnable. 7 bullets in the chamber, but this man may only need 2 of them. Both players moving from garage here. The audio cue will be given up in just a moment. It's all down to timing. Ale, does he expect the garage blitz? Yes, he does, but Sawson turns in just the right moment. Alliance make it 2, but my god, did Ale make him bleed for it.
Oh man, Ale, I want to see those shots in slow-mo, because that flick! Inhuman reaction time. Absolutely insane. Just sees a little bit of that shoulder, and then immediately, yeah, there it is. Oh, look, there's no one. Boom.
He just plucks them out of the map, doesn't he?
Absolutely.
Just doesn't get to the Sova.
Absolutely insane. Makes it look so clean. As Alliance, they do win that round, but again, it's very costly. And they're still not really able to hit these win conditions that you see from maps like Haven, where you want to buy into places like the Operator, so that it instantly deletes one of these free spaces that attacking side is going to be looking for. As once again, very early fault line from Alliance in exchange for that fast lane. And it's now KOVA get all of the information on where that breach is playing and can position themselves, knowing that he's not there, to push onto C. Nebula's going to make it a little bit harder for Courtesy to find value, as it is just Yasmin sniffing up, making sure that Cubby is clear, and trying to pin down where that defense is going to be stacked.
KOVA, they continue to, for now, almost flirts with the idea of approaching this B site, but the kind of passive position of Nilla means that taking engagement is actually going to be quite difficult unless you're already committed to that site. Fault line goes out, going to buy a bit of space here. With garage control now, the assault is going to begin onto the C site. There's the Rolling Thunder, the Omen sent into the stratosphere. Jesmond locks him down, and Cider follows it up. 3 kills with the Hunter's Fury! KOVA now needs to rely on Sheds! Where did that come from? However, the backwards position means that Shed can go aggressive. Spots out the first dose, there's a second, can't trade it. Vicious now, on for the 1 versus 2, and Cider on for the ace. So Rolling Thunder is still available for Malfoy. There it is deployed, however, at this point Vicious is already clear. Deploys that first swarm grenade.
Swarm grenade out.
Does he deploy that second? Yes, he does. Actually, a bit preemptive. He doesn't expect a player to be on that spike. Gets hit with a fault line, and now that spike's going to be tapped, and he's out of utility. Aftershocks go out. There's the first. His location revealed, though. Pinged by the dart. Cider taps it. Cider attempts to hold it. Halfway gone. Sticking the whole thing. Cider swings out, but no, Vicious gets the kill. KOVA make it 5. Vicious with the 1v2, and Cider, despite the heroism that came from the Hunter's Fury, it just was not enough.
Yeah, unfortunately that Rolling Thunder does not actually clear Cubby. It clears left side of site. And it's a wonderful Hunter's Fury, making sure that even as they come out from garage, they're just stuck like sardines in a can in that corridor, not quite able to dance their way out from death. But Vicious, enough time has passed that you've got Cubby control, and then you can pull back into the exit of C Long and really punish the fact that without something like a Rolling Thunder, you don't have the concussion to land that kill on the Killjoy. As KOVA now going to be going back to that very early level of aggression. Shed already over onto that A site entirely, and does Soren actually know that the Neon's already that deep?
Well, they do now. Soren falls to Sutma, and that's the aggression I love seeing from KOVA. It's planned, it's methodical, and it allows the Neon to just highway their way to whatever site they set their gaze to. I want to further this by saying the overdrive was still available, they just chose not to use it. Cider catches out LA now, down to the 3-on-4. Now, for KOVA, this is worrisome because they haven't got control of anywhere other than site, so they need to push somewhere, but Cider expects it. Sutma falls. KOVA need to push somewhere, otherwise they're going to be swarmed. They just don't know where's safe, they don't know where to escape from. Paranoia's going to reveal one position, but for Shred, he's just overwhelmed. Nilla finishes the job. Alliance, they make it 3, keeping relatively close to KOVA here.
Yeah, KOVA once again being able to get aggressive, but then when it does fall into the actual space that they've got, because they got aggressive that quickly onto the site, they didn't actually have all channels of it clear. They rely on Shed being there with the Neon, that distraction to pull focus. And so no one's really thinking that some players are still going to be sat playing bouncer onto short. And so they're not able to grab control of any space, as you pointed out, that is that site. And we do see a little bit of an aggressive push, but Cider and Malfoy just instantly shut it down. And suddenly it's just KOVA and Yasmin stuck on that site with no controllers, 3 players and Roach from all angles. Because for the first time we're actually seeing KOVA on a little bit of a lighter buy. This should be the round that Shed is able to use that overdrive, I say that, but Soren immediately shuts it down!
There is a trade, though, from Summer. He does keep it into the 4v4, but without the overdrive, remember, KOVA, they have bugger all cash. They need an advantage somehow. Botline goes out, it is going to hit the Cypher, but Nilla isn't going to be pushed yet. Cider has his flank, Cider's woken up, and now with Cider in the game, all of a sudden, this is not a done deal. This is not a done deal by any stretch of the imagination. Ale finished off Cider with the 3k, and with that, Alliance start catching up to KOVA.
Absolute gorgeous Cypher cage as well coming onto C-Longs that KOVA can't actually push out from that smoke. And Alliance able to just snare those players up, stop them from getting site control. We're really seeing Alliance being very quick now. Before they were very hesitant, very passive, even when KOVA already had those sites. But now we're seeing them react a whole lot faster. They're getting a lot more reward for it. And really being able to hold on to that space, punish the fact that for KOVA, 2 of their real important win conditions do come from when that spike is in the ground and they've had enough time to be able to pull back into ideal post-plant positions, something that Alliance is now entirely stopping them from doing. This is the first real time that we've seen Alliance push out aggressively off of the back of things like those fault lines and look for those picks. And it has meant that Supma has gone down, so now if Shed wants to push onto one of these sites, it's going to be a little bit harder without that fault line to set up.
Too stupid.
Absolutely is. Jessamine tries to follow it up, does the odd bit of damage wherever possible, but Cider on the follow-up, down to the 3-on-2. Shed needs an opening and he needs it fast. Nilla spotted out. However, that's a clean kill. Vicious left alone. 1 versus 3. And Alliance, my god, are they starting to shoot back here? Double swing, and that's all that's needed for Alliance. KOVA find themselves equalized against them. For Alliance, the confidence is starting to brew. We have a game in our hands, Moxie. It's no longer a blowout. This is going to turn from a slaughter into a bloodbath.
Yeah, Haven is one of those where that defense really does have to have confidence, especially if you're running this jet still. You have to be able to look for those early picks, given the fact that 2 of your agents in 5 is trying to set that jet up, play off of those fault lines, let Soren come in with those picks. Now we're actually even seeing an operator coming out from the jet, having that confidence to look for these positions. Soren is actually going to get stunned out and caught out by that fast lane, and Shed hears that noise, knows that Soren has been pushing into that space for the last couple of rounds, will be able to punish. Unfortunately for Alliance being a little bit too predictable in their aggression, and KOVA adapt around.
That Malfoy swings out. Vicious, there's the opening. Operator revealing itself. Vicious low on HP though. Lockdown being deployed here from KOVA, which means that Nilla's flank has to just be through bit of range for the time being. Shed is taken down. However, there won't be a follow-up. With no ults available for Alliance, they need their gunplay to do the talking. Spike down. 2 on 3. This next kill, this duel between Vicious and Nilla is going to be everything, but Nilla avoids it. He's going to be able to outflank long here, but Vicious may get the audio cue. He has. That puts even more pressure onto Nilla now to be able to shut down one of these players.
It's going to be so hard now with that operator still sitting on a crossfire. Even if Kadazi and Nilla are able to jump out at the same time, you just don't have control of that space anymore. And what Alliance were looking to become that win condition, unfortunately, got taken into enemy position. The operator is now under KOVA's control. And this means that a lot of those shenanigans that Soren was looking for very early on in those rounds, those first bloods that gave Alliance that confidence to be able to move on forward and stop KOVA in their tracks, anticipating the team and cutting them off from the sites, is now going to be turned against them. This defense could potentially become cowed with that operator going to be looking for that early first pickers once more. Soren is being very predictable and pushing that same space, a little bit more cautious, but should still not find that value that Alliance are looking for. I say that, the Prowler didn't actually pick the jet up. The second Prowler will. They know that Soren is there, and you're already having to use a lot of your utility to back out safely.
With the Divide already used, Swords it on the close angle. Jesper, does he expect it? Yes, he does. Beautiful anticipation. And that's going to kickstart the attack. Now Cider has to push, and Cider has to go huge. Spots out the first, hit by the Rolling Thunder, though, blasted back through to the other side of that Cosmic Divide. Malfoy, he holds firm. Malfoy holds firm for a good while now. Anyone else there? He can roll up, roll up. Jessamine follows it up, though. Spike tapped, not planted, though. Instead, for this 3-on-2. KOVA, they're hunting for an opening. They need one fast. Pinged out. Nilla, good for Vicious. It's all onto Jessamine, but Nilla doubles down. And Alliance also find themselves once again tied with KOVA, finding that equalizer as they end the half.
I love that Cider just gets trampolined to safety. Does get hit by the Rolling Thunder, but gets pancake flipped into the enemy team's Cosmic Divide, and that being a double-edged sword. The fact that it does stop your enemy's bullets, but it also stops yours, does guarantee this over safety, and allows Alliance the time to be able to actually get control of high ground. They're going into heaven and tying us up 6-6. This time, it's going to be Alliance on the attack, but KOVA, they're running a very good defensive push. If they want to, they can combine up things like that fault line and then LACs, get Shed into a position to grab whichever player gets snared and absolutely decimate that first contact.
It's going to be interesting to see how KOVA are able to respond to Alliance's essentially very aggressive stance in the last half, and instead they respond to aggression with aggression. Peeking through mid here, they've actually hidden their presence in window. Jump out by Malfoy, he jumps into every single player, has to alternate, has to decide who to actually fight. However, the trades, they just about go even over in mid. KOVA continuing this aggression. Flash is perfect, timed amazingly, but Sutma, that flash is to get away. Side it, low on HP, as is Ale. But there's no follow-up. Instead, Alliance, they get ready to hit this C site. They make noise as they do so. Ale's going to make the rotation. Sutma's going to do the same, with the rest with the Astra as well, which means that Ale alone, 40 HP, has to do as much damage to either delay or buy time as possible.
Oh, site is so low. But they are able to get onto site. The problem is they don't have control of C long, and they're also not going to have control of Link in a moment because Ali, there we go, contesting them. Kurazi has to try and take a little bit of time to make sure that that area is safe, and that time means that KOVA have been able to wrap all the way up C long. Spike has been planted behind Fox though. Just for Yasmin is able to find one, not able to find the second, and Soren still being alive. 44 HP is more than enough to make sure that this attacking team get that round. And one thing I will criticize about KOVA's defense is that when they run this composition, they are known for getting very aggressive very early on in these rounds. That's why you can actually see Alliance being very cautious of lobby at the moment. And the one thing that KOVA has been contested with every single time they defend on Haven is trying to push lobby very fast, very early to put Shed into a position. And a lot of teams have now wised up to it. Teams like you can see, like Alliance, making sure that they stay nice and clear.
That won't stop the attempt, though, as it looks like Shed goes up to almost point blank over on A. However, A is not the destination. It's going to be the C site. Timmy Turret is going to spot the aggression, but actually stopping it is going to be a real problem here. Nilla holding this close angle. It's about to be overwhelmed. He does have Cider to assist in this endeavor. However, is it enough? Nilla doubles down, and that could be perfect. Vicious follows it up. Cider now, what can he do? Good for one. Traded again. And if you're KOVA, trades are fine. You went into this with nothing.
You still do want one more kill potentially. Vicious looking for it, but Kurazi will deny. And you can definitely see that Alliance have done their homework. They anticipate that KOVA are going to be pushing extremely aggressively from a long or short. The fault line from Malfoy is perfect. It stops Shed, but it also means that all of KOVA gets stuck. And Melee is just there to anticipate, to stop that rotation from being quite as clean as they want it to. However, it's now the bonus for Alliance and the full buy out from KOVA. This is where they need to start looking for those picks. This is where it becomes extremely dangerous to actually stick around lobby. Alliance gonna try and stop that Neon by taking them out.
Shed at point blank. Now actually going quite aggressive with the Prowler going through this smoke. Shed on an off angle is just going to hope that the crossfire with Ale here will be enough to stop Alliance from swinging into them. One utility being deployed on C just to almost show that there's a default here from Alliance. KOVA continue with the Prowler usage. Once they see that A is clear though, they've actually just backed off. They may have read that Alliance is shifting over to C here.
Well, they have all of the utility in the world with the combination of those Astras and that Killjoy. So you can see Vicious playing so far, so deep in back of this site. The second that turret picks out a little bit of movement, looks away from the flash, is able to find the jet. Soren is down, isn't able to get the spray to connect onto C-Long. That has bought the time for Yasmin. To run through from Garage. Yasmin gets free, Summer gets the fourth, and that is going to be a Lion shutdown in split seconds.
That right there is a yes, man. That was incredible. 3 kills in quick succession, and that is going to bring out the Cosmic Divide available for KOVA on their next retake. Remember though, they're still a round down. Over to Alliance, they have a Hunter's Fury in place, ready to be used here. Remember, this was just a bonus for Alliance, and they made that round. If it wasn't for Jesmond to get that 3k, it looked like it could have very well have been winnable for them.
Yeah, but Alliance just going for that same approach, not really setting that crossfire up to have Garage control as well as Long are punished for it. As once more, KOVA being very predictable, very samey on these early A pushes. Alliance this time aren't actually even wasting utilities. They're just keeping themselves nice and clear so that they do have things like those fault lines. They've seen the punishment that can happen if they don't have fault line to, say, throw into Garage when you're trying to push C without a presence. And this time, they are going to be holding on to those to be able to push, knowing that KOVA, not finding that early fight that they're looking for in A, have had to back off. Not too far. Ali is still getting a lot of information. Prime Pop the Seas thinks better of it, will wrap further away. As Shed, I think he just saw a little bit of a barrel of Kadezi's gun. Doesn't take the fight. Needs to see if they'll walk into him instead.
Ale needs to be so careful. He hears all of them push through. There's the opening from Shed, and he's actually saved by the Cosmic Divide momentarily. Ale good for 3 as well! Elsewhere! Ale just tears through them! Jesmond can do it! Yeah, well, Ale can do it better. It's all on to Code C, and unfortunately, 2 may be great, but Shed is there, and Shed is ready for KOVA to equalise 8-8 now off the back of back-to-back 3Ks from KOVA. For Alliance, this is going to be worrisome. Bear in mind, they've had the right idea. They've approached sites very effectively. Their Cosmic Divides have been extremely effective at that, but it's actually dueling, it's actually fighting now, which is where we've seen them struggle.
Yasmin is definitely my call for MVP of this match right now. Oh my goodness, that Gravwell was absolutely gorgeous and does set up for Ale 1 away from the Nightfall. As Shed this time around is over onto C. Will be read out, Malfoy doing a little bit of a jiggle jump peek. Gets the information and will be able to survive. So now Alliance want to try and push into Garage, but Shed, using that Neon being a little bit faster, has been able to rotate into Garage and claim mid-doors. Slider with the Sheriff is able to take the Neon out, but Sutma moves forward with the trade onto that Phantom. And now Alliance, they've already been lowered down to 3, make that 2. They do have a little bit of space to work with onto B-side, but it is only going to be temporary unless Kodizzy, with 2 Sheriff picks, is able to buy them the time and space to start to get this plan.
Blasting up. Spike planted.
Jesmond trying to follow it up now. Here's beautiful timing on the rolling thunder, gets both players followed up by the attack, and it's just an instant shutdown. There's actually a From the Shadows used from Code Z there, trying to flank back through mid, shuts down Jesmond, but timing isn't quite enough. I don't know how I feel about that From the Shadows usage, I won't lie.
I mean, if it had worked, it would have been magnificent. It would have been absolutely gorgeous, because you have to remember the bind that they're coming in with. And it is going to be Alliance now put on to still a full buy, still rifles, still having to go toe-to-toe with KOVA. Both of these teams in a position that they could buy into an operator, but KOVA's playstyle for this defense hasn't really been go slow, try and push Alliance to be hesitant and take advantage of that passive play, right, looking for those shots. They are very much all in, hit the gas as soon as these rounds start. As you can see, again, Shed just going so aggressive, has already pushed themselves into Cubby. As Alliance, if they want to push on to C, they are going to have to contest Garage. Drone will come on through. Yeah, is able to clear Yasmin. That's the fault line to try and catch the Astra, but able to change into that melee and use that little bit of faster movement to get away. Vicious had moved into window to try and punish if they had tried to push through doors with the Nano Swarm, but Alliance not going to push their luck, not going to push the space, and we'll go back to the drawing board.
They've actually, from this drawing board, extrapolated quite an effective plan. Hit the safe site, the one site KOVA haven't really defended. For now, KOVA, they've read it though. Now it's starting to click, now it's starting to occur to them. Actually, this site could be in a a bit of a worse place than we thought. Nightfall comes out, time to perfection there. Flash is deployed, but is that enough? Jet caught out instantly by Ali. He goes to the other side of the smoke, able to double down. Tries to triple down, out of ammo though, is being his only cursed shut down.
30 seconds left.
And for Alliance, with 3 players left standing, what really can they do? Without spike control, without money in the bank as well? Huddersfield might help, but if this fails, fortunately, they may not even have a chance to plant. While Huddersfield helps Cider, good for Sutma now, it's all onto Shed, and Cider actually converts it! A round Alliance had no business winning there.
Hello, Nile. What an absolute beautiful MVP moment of neural theft. Because it actually catches out KOVA's 2 flanking players. Shed had gone into attacker spawn, so that if Alliance went for a save call, you would be able to part them with their weapons. Sutma had gone to try and catch out Cider, who was mid-Hunter's Fury animation, but thankfully, that neural theft gives away both of the players' locations. And Cider's able to get the pick onto both. And what should have been a round that KOVA had in the bag, given the fact that Nightfall connected with every single member of those players, they unfortunately just did not have enough follow-up to be able to keep control of that A-site push. And now Alliance, having to feel extremely confident with themselves, are going to be pushing on to C, but Kremer, it's the exact same way. They've entirely given up garage control. And you can just see Yasmin wanting to find that same magic twice.
Actually jumping into the nano swarm there is the Jets. The ping though really harming this defender. Jasmine good for the first. Cozy is able to trade. Vicious doubling down. All of a sudden KOVA, it may be Sheriffs, but they're the law in this town. Something good for another. Nilla though with 3! Where did that come from? Down to the 232. The overdrive is being used by Jet, sure. But is that enough? Nilla trying to back up. Is able to avoid all the utility here. But Shed's been able to retrieve a Phantom. All of a sudden, Moxie, we have a round on our hands, and Shed at range annihilates Nilla. KOVA make it 10 from Sheriffs, but for Nilla, my god, he doesn't want to go down without a fight.
Oh man, Nila's Cypher, it's one of my favorite things to watch. It's wonderful to get him. Like, he has a good chamber, don't get me wrong, but he is just something else on that Cypher. We're going to get to see it replayed just high. The problem for KOVA is that they ran out of pushing utility. They all got stuffed up onto that site, and Nila is able to just spray through so money. Unfortunately for Nila, you also don't have spike control, so you are eventually going to have to peek out that Neon, and Shed can just hold space as fast as possible. As Shed once again is going to try and grab space as fast as possible. Soren, entirely uncontested, has been able to actually worm their way over towards B. They're expecting it. You can see Sutma has now fallen into position to try and cut them off, but Soren is looking like you want to try and dash in to catch C-Link rather than B. And Sutma, sensing that no one's walking through that nebula, gets a little bit antsy. We'll throw in a little bit of breach utility to remove themselves from the situation. Flashpoint comes through. It's enough to dissuade Soren from trying to push for that pick. And Sutma, now with the information that all of the team are currently pushing, has triggered that lockdown from their Killjoy.
One enemy remaining.
Sorzen is eventually put down, however, it took a while to get there. Cozy left alone in a 1 versus 3. Spots out the first player. Can't quite get through the Cosmic Divide. KOVA, that will be 11. But more importantly, Moxie, look at the money of Alliance. It is not looking healthy. And KOVA now might be in a position where they could reset Alliance while simultaneously hitting match and series point.
Yeah, this is going to be a really tough spot for this attacking side, because you are going to have to go for full eco so you can force up into that match point. And not having things like that Bladestorm, the fact that they just exhausted it in the round previous and weren't able to find anything because you just didn't have the confidence to try and hit that breach, that Sutma stays alive that long, means that Soren just gets stuck, wings clipped onto that B site, and then has to try and contest the lockdown to come through, which is just a big old bait to take the Jet out from the picture. This is around the Alliance desperately need to win, and KOVA know how important it is for the attacking side. They're going so aggressive to just try and dismantle any morale, any economy that Alliance are going to be looking for. Get the first pick, can immediately pull back knowing that they found the duelist. Their job is essentially done without having that Clyde burst to try and get onto these sites safely. KOVA, with so much of these smokes, having that nebula in the way, just get all of these angles for free, can just spray, and there's nothing that you can do with something like a Marshall because it takes too long to set the shot up. You can see Vicious just dancing, pulling out the shot, knowing that Nile has absolutely nothing in the weaponry tanks to actually properly contest.
Kurti swings in, Sutler. It's the fault line with the loss of the alarm bots. There's still a lot of utility being planned here. There's the opening. Ale shuts down Malfoy, and now we need to see these sheriffs start delivering. And Sutton, on the topic of sheriffs delivering, he knows exactly what I mean. Good for 2. Well, assisted, at least with that second player. KOVA, they hit match and series points. Now with both a Rolling Thunder and a Nightfall to assist them with whatever retake they dare choose. Over on Alliance, though, to tick them over, to tick them to overtime, to just win 3 rounds. They have their Neural Theft, they have their From the Shadows, they have their Rolling Thunder.
We also have a timeout, and I'm actually gonna confess, I'm amazed it took us this long to see that one come out, Kramer. Especially when you're running against...
early on Icebox.
Yeah, especially when you're running up against the comp that KOVA is running, because they have a lot of explosive starts of these rounds, but it also burns out a lot of utility from their own pockets. And Alliance seemed to be able to handle that early round extremely well when this map started, but as it's continued, it really has just started to slip away. It hasn't been Soren who's been dictating that early tempo. It's been KOVA getting to sniff out so much space for free. And it isn't even on these places that we expect the defense to be writing those first picks. It's in places like Courtyard instead of A lobby or C long.
Because of that, I can't help but think that for Alliance, I don't want to see them default. I actually just want to see them stack up and push somewhere, because they're effective when they're trading. They're effective when they're trading, but KOVA are doing such a good job isolating 1 versus 1s that Alliance haven't been able to trade. They haven't been able to sort of get into what is their kind of critical capacity, their critical mass, where they're in an afterplant with their utility ready to be used.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you on any other round. The problem is that KOVA running 2 very punishing ults if you do go for that full stack. Nightfall and Rolling Thunder, Houston tandem can be absolutely devastating, which is why Alliance are playing a little bit split apart from each other. It's not quite the one-on-ones, so it is nice to see that they are paired up enough to be able to look for those trades. And they're very much aware that KOVA could potentially just be playing for retake. They're making sure all of their members on this defense are going to be alive, not really revealing themselves either to try and bait out Alliance's utility, so that when the spike does go down, KOVA are in very fast position to be able to hit them so they don't get to push back into places like Cubby.
So there's the opening. Malfoy falls 5 on 4 now, and for Alliance, this is such a difficult position to be in. Having to run straight into Jessamine. They anticipate. No, they don't. Oh, the trigger discipline is beautiful. There's the first. There's the Nightfall to accompany it. What can Alliance hope to do?
Well, it is apparently going to be a push over onto that A site, but Soren's able to find 2, able to find 3 through those players coming out from tunnel, despite being tagged up by the Nightfall and the Terror Trail. But they've got the spike planted. It is just Vicious with the Vandal, able to find 1, able to find 2! Alarm bot gonna now be triggered, not able to pull Cider's attention away long enough. Vicious will go down. Alliance hit double digits, and it looked so dicey when Courtesy went down that early, when KOVA had that much control and hit them both with the Nightfall and the Rolling Thunder. But they just were not expecting Alliance, despite being stunned up, despite being tethered and terror trailed, to still push on to site that aggressively.
Something to mention here is that not only do KOVA have enough money for 1 buy round left, but they also have they also don't have any ults now. This used to be aim and aim alone, and Vicious knowing this is at point blank. Look at the aggression. Look at the take in mid here. Shed good for the first dislocation. No, he's pinged, but out comes Sutler. There's another one. Suddenly this is very doable for KOVA. They don't need abilities. They have bullets. They have the power of lead. Beats this Alliance and Vanilla. He has lead of his own, but can he throw it back to KOVA with the same conviction, with the same confidence that was just done unto the rest of his team? The sole responsibility of keeping KOVA out of playoffs to continue that chance falls onto Nila. Tries to peek, tries to catch out one of these players, hopes that timing favours him, but KOVA haven't budged an inch. They haven't moved a muscle. They know that Nila has to come to them. A minute on the clock. They'll wait a century. They'll wait an eternity if needs be. Cypher just inches forward. Good for the first. Down on 15 HP, though. He cannot risk shots like that. Again, it needs to be pixel perfect from here on out. Moving through toward Garage, now hoping as he goes past Hay that Sutma won't be facing his way, but no. Timing does not favour him. KOVA, they go 13-10 up. They advance to playoffs. They eliminate human tripwires from the playoff contention. And more importantly, they take Alliance 2-0.
Oh, KOVA, they finally are able to make playoffs, and it is just off of a wonderful map from Haven. Unfortunately for Alliance, you really do feel like they just lost that map in the first seconds of that round. The fact that Shed and Sitma are able to control both B mid and mid doors. So you do just get sandwiched in between an absolute bullet hell coming out from those two agents on the defense. And time again, when Alliance were taken out of those fights early, it was in that exact same space. I really would have loved to see an adaptation coming through from someone like either Kadezi or Malfoy, so that you throw the Fault Line or the Paranoia or even Dark Cover, seeing that KOVA has pushed aggressively on that defense so many times from that same space.
You're right, and for me, I can't help but think that KOVA maybe became their own enemy in this map. I think they got a little bit too aggressive at times, and for Alliance, I think once they started punishing KOVA, they started feeding their confidence. They started realizing, actually, this is a very winnable game. And for KOVA, I think the sort of halfway point where Alliance suddenly pieces it together, we then had a game on our hands. But the damage was already done at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as well as that for Alliance, it took them so long to hit that conclusion. And then we saw the side swap come through where KOVA tempered that aggression, that Alliance never really got their economy to be able to recover and full buy into utilities as well as weaponry. And it is going to be Ali, no surprises, going to be picking up MVP for KOVA. That fade, while not necessarily coming up massive in terms of early bits of content, was also getting a lot of information for the rest of the team. The fact that you were able to slow Alliance down with those terror trails, forcing them to wait 13 seconds on their attack, means that you never really have the time to be able to fully clear those sites. And KOVA, with the comp that they're running, are very good at taking a very little bits of time and getting themselves into either repositions or onto site and just throwing down utility, spamming Alliance out of that space and stopping them from picking up these rounds.
You're right. And now for KOVA, this is a point to say what happens next, right? They've already shown that they are the most aggressive team in this tournament, frankly. What do they change now going to playoffs? They suddenly slam the brakes. We start seeing default passives, kind of working for picks from KOVA. Or are you going to see them go for the same mold and just hope that the other teams aren't prepared for it?
Yeah, I think KOVA as well, they're very good at seeing that they're starting to make these mistakes, starting to make these slip-ups, and then immediately changing the game. The fact that we saw Shed so many times on that defense early push into A long for so many rounds that Alliance were anticipating it, and then they moved the Neon's position so that you didn't know whether it was going to be early contact on A, B, or C, turning Haven's gimmick, which is normally against the defense, against the attackers for punishing them on gambling, whether the Neon is behind door number 1, 2, or 3, and burning out things like the Fault Line early.
I'm interested to see if KOVA actually have a maybe even a target come playoffs. I know that in just a moment we'll be able to have an interview with, I believe, Jesmond. So once we're able to do that, we'll be able to ask him directly. But I'm curious to see if KOVA have like a target in the teams above them, whether they go, Excel are the ones we want to beat. We know they're good aimers. We want to beat that.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting as well to see how they're feeling. Because for KOVA, right, we had this arms race for two of these teams, Human Tripwires or KOVA. Human Tripwires still had a chance to get through. If KOVA lost, KOVA needed Human Tripwires to lose as well as their team to win, and they were able to meet both conditions and now head into playoffs. So definitely going to be interesting to see whether they have a game plan moving forward and whether or not we're going to see different compositions coming out from them too.
Absolutely. And as we said, in just a moment, we will be able to head into an interview with Jasmine so we can see, and we can pick the mind potentially of one of the players who helped craft KOVA that victory. Before we go into playoffs, now, I know it's a bit cheeky to say it now because you'll be there, I won't be. who do you think is going to be winning playoffs? Who do you think is a good person to keep a good team to keep your eye on?
I have to go for Excel. I'm sorry. I do.
Yeah, fair enough. It's the safe option.
So strong. Like, my MVP for the entire season would either go to Patatech or Chihuahua. Those two players are absolutely insane. We saw Mo as well coming up absolutely massive yesterday with some amazing clutch plays coming on through. These guys, they won the split 1. And now they really are putting themselves into prime position to take away split 2.
They absolutely are. Now, let's hear it from Jesmond, of course, the player who's helped to bring KOVA such a convincing victory. How are you feeling, bud, after a 2-0?
I'm feeling fine. So, like you said, pretty convinced 2-0.
Of course, now...
And obviously, now moving into playoffs with that spot secured, is anything going to change for the team moving in off of regular season?
I think we have been changing a bit our game plan, and the good thing about us is we're changing a lot, and this way, like, we are becoming more unpredictable. I'm sorry, and I think that's going to be our strength when we go to the playoffs, and I think like we have a very good chance to surprise any teams on the playoffs.
Interesting. Do you now you are going to playoffs? Is there any team you want to beat? Is there any sort of marker team you want to do well against?
I think XL is going to be a good matchup for us, and hoping to beat them. Like, we have been losing them against them like twice now, and last time it was kind of unlucky, and we weren't like fully prepared on the second map. I think the third time is going to be the charm, I think.
So you mentioned that you're very versatile when it comes to compositions. Is there any way that you guys particularly decide what composition that you're going to run against specific teams?
I don't think it's going to be changing a lot depending on the teams. It's more like what we are feeling. And I think we have been doing all the groundwork, so we can basically just put anything on the composition and just play it well. And it's not going to change like too much, but we are just adding a bit layers to our game plan.
Thank you very much for a brief interview, Jesmond. Best of luck for playoffs, and more importantly, congratulations for your victory today.
Thank you.
With that though, I believe it is time to wrap up. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not used to being in the hosting seat. Now Pavlos has left me. Realize, but this is way too much control to give to me. But with that, KOVA, they were able to take a 2-0 victory against Alliance. With that, of course, with Human Tripwires falling 2-1 to Who Cars, it means that KOVA will be the ones going to playoffs, as well as Human Tripwires and Alliance being the ones who unfortunately will fall short.
Yeah, for Human Tripwires, it is unfortunately going to be the end of the road. But, Kramer, we have our top 4 who are going to be moving into playoffs and trying to nab a spot in that promotional tournament. It is, of course, going to be XL, Finest, Hookahs, and KOVA. And my goodness, how close is playoffs going to be when you look at how these teams interacted with each other across all of the regular season? So many times we thought this is the team that's going to come out on top, absolutely determined, dominant, and then they would lose against another team.
Yeah, it's honestly, I'm quite impressed with their performance overall. With that though, let's take a look at the bracket going into playoffs. I'm really curious to see who our matchups are going to be here, and maybe we can lay some preliminary predictions on while we're still here. Because for me, I think in the XL KOVA game, I'm thinking KOVA probably take a map off of XL. I think they're able to get some surprises there. I think it's 2-1 for Finest and Who Cars. I actually think there could be an upset there. I think Who Cars 2-1.
I mean, it could be honestly anyone's game, that Finest versus Who Cars matchup. For KOVA versus XL, though, my favoritism has to go towards XL. They're a really strong team coming on through, and everyone on that team can actually step out from their roles and become a pseudo-duelist. The fact that your Sentinel can still come top frag in the entire lobby, and the same can be said for your initiator. Like, we heard it from Yasmin as well, that XL's matchup versus them, they think could be very interesting. And I think we might see KOVA pulling out some very strange strategies to try and beat XL, and I am very fond of teams thinking outside the box to try and find an advantage.
It is always entertaining, isn't it? When we see something booky that we don't quite expect. Let's take a look at the predictions on top of expecting, because I believe you have done very damn well, Moxie. 18 correct predictions, falling just a little bit shy of that rank 1 spot.
Yeah, I was so close to maybe putting down a H2O win yesterday and then decided against it, but no, it is going to be both Sam and Ginny who are currently in the lead for those predictions. So everyone today, other than MP, who gambled on human tripwires, will be receiving full points.
I'm glad MP is sort of down there with me in the suffering. I'm glad it's not just me, because my predictions this season have been absolutely terrible. However, what isn't terrible is the socials, which you can find down below. Just so we'll have something in the lower third. I believe it's ValLeague_NE on both Instagram and Twitter. Isn't it cool they were able to get the same handle on everything? Do you know how hard that is to do nowadays? So fair play to ValLeague_NE. Go follow them on all of those socials below. You got any closing thoughts, Moxie?
I mean, I'm just happy that I got to hop in to one of the really hotly contested games today, because I would say that today has actually been the most important day in all of the regular seasons for seeing who would get that 4th spot, because halfway through the season, you looked at the teams, we had, 4-way ties for 1st place, 2-way ties for 3rd. Like, no one knew which 4 teams would be able to make their way into playoffs, but now we do.
Now we do, and let's be honest, they have some pretty bloody good teams. So playoffs is going to be all the more exciting to watch. Partners, both SideQuest and NobleChairs.gg. In fact, we're on Noble Chairs now, aren't we, Moxie? They're pretty cool, pretty comfy.
Yeah, they're really comfortable too.
They are really comfy. So, a big thank you to all of them. I'm Videocaster Camera, enjoyed by the Moxie. Thank you for joining me on such short notice. We'll be back with the playoffs. It should be up shortly. Be sure to follow the channels that we just linked so you can know when those playoff dates and when those broadcast times actually are. With that, I hope you'll have a wonderful evening. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.